Okay, so tell me a little bit about the Northwest ADA Center and how it all got started.
Okay, so the Northwest ADA Center, it's part of a national network of ADA centers. It's called the ADA, or Americans with Disabilities Act National Network. And the network started in 1991, and it has 10 regional centers. We're the Northwest one, but there's Southeast, Southwest, Northeast, lots of different regional centers. And I think it was created really to spread the word about the ADA, to try and teach people about this new law, and to be a resource where, um, if you were a business owner and you didn't know how to comply with the law, people could call these centers and ask for, what do I do to make sure my services are accessible? And we can provide kind of general advice about how to implement the ADA. And so what our center does currently is we have a hotline and an email address. And so anyone can call or email for free and ask any question about the ADA. And most of the people who call are people with disabilities, but also they're business owners or kind of ADA coordinators can call in, or people who work for the state or city. So we do this kind of hotline, email, answering questions service. And then we also give trainings on the ADA. So going into businesses or local governments and teaching people about their requirements. And we also we do research projects to see kind of what barriers there are to why the ADA isn't followed more. It's a law that's been around for quite a while. Why, what are the holdups for implementing it? So it's kind of this answering questions, teaching through trainings, and then research on the law and how it's implemented. They're
Mm-hmm.
kind of the main things that our center does.
Mm-hmm. So, like, what kinds of services do you provide? I was going to get into that question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, so the services really are we call it technical assistance, and it's the phone number and the emails. So answering those questions, trainings, and we tailor trainings to kind of different organizational needs and different topics. Like, I don't know, I think we've got some coming up for service animals and employment, or service animals in public accommodation. So different specific types of trainings. And we do charge for trainings, but we can also waive fees for them. And then we try and kind of connect different people in the ADA world. So we have meetings that we hold, we call them communities of practice, and ADA coordinators from different parts of Washington can show up and share kind of their experiences, because in a lot of organizations, the ADA coordinator is kind of alone. And so we're trying to create a kind of a community for them so they can ask people doing similar work, but in different organizations, for advice and share ideas. I think I'm probably forgetting some things, but in general, those are the services that we provide.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Any particular stakeholders that you partner with closely? So, like, what kind of stakeholders does the ADA Center partner with um, in your efforts?
So we have, gosh, I don't think I said this. So the Northwest ADA Center, we serve 4 states, not just Washington. So it's Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Alaska. And then if you're in other states, your calls get routed to the other regional centers. And so we have partners in each state. And in Alaska, we work with the statewide Independent Living Council to we partner so that they can share local needs with us or different ADA issues that are coming up in Alaska. And then they help us spread kind of information about the ADA in Alaska. We also work with an independent living center in Washington and Idaho called Disability Action Center Northwest. And then our last community partner is the Community Vision Assistive Technology Lab, and they're based in Portland. So we have those three kind of formal partners. And then we're also part of the University of Washington. And so we kind of connect with other centers and groups in the university community. I think that's probably the main ones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My next question here is, what impact does your organization have on like the disability community? If you could talk about that.
Yeah. So I think I think one of our main goals or purposes, you know, is to teach people about their rights. And a lot of people with disabilities, myself included, you don't always grow up thinking of yourself as someone who has rights, or kind of that identity or experience is connected to civil rights. And so I think something that's important, when people call in and ask questions about, how do I ask for a reasonable accommodation at work? And we can explain the process, and this is what will probably happen and should happen. And if it doesn't happen, go here for help. So I think just knowing about our rights is really important. And then we can also kind of gently influence. We don't do enforcement or make anyone do anything, but we can encourage businesses or like working with little towns, or even in Seattle, trying to make sure that when trying to help other organizations remember to think about the ADA and include people with disabilities. So that kind of, just gently encouraging people to try and think about the law and how they could, if they wanted to, follow its recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. Lastly, how can the ADA Center, create an inclusive and welcoming environment for people with disabilities? Like, what are some of the things that you can do to sort of create that?
So I think since we're an ADA center and we're really focused on that law and promoting that law and teaching about it. And I know it's not the perfect law and that it's kind of sometimes just a baseline, this is the bare minimum we should do to try and create accessible, inclusive spaces. And of course, we should go, we can do much more, but many communities or businesses or kind of organizations, they still don't really know about the requirements of the ADA. And so I think by promoting, this is how you make a space accessible, this is how you create access to a program, even just focusing on kind of the smaller or the basic requirements in the law, I think we still need to work on that. And then maybe other people in the community can work on, I don't know, kind of creating inclusive art or inclusive, like the more abstract parts of communities. And then we're here to, like the ADA is giving us the bare minimum. We should do this. And then that hopefully will allow people to be together and then create more inclusive spaces.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry, that was a
Yeah.
bit rambling.
Yeah, inclusive spaces I think is what really will sort of get people with disabilities. It's not just people with disabilities, it's also people with disabilities from different racial, ethnic, cultural backgrounds. I think really
Mhm,
creating that really can make a big difference.
I agree.
Those are fair points. Some really fair points.